Welcome to the Bookshelf Odyssey podcast, and my guest today is author and podcaster Wendy Kok. She hosts the Juicy Pear Podcast and has just recently published her second book called Unawakening, which is a sequel to A Gray Resort. The book follows Brooke Larken, who decides to go fishing at her lakeside resort, and she discovers something there that will change her life forever. And that's all I'll say about that. I'm going to keep the mystery alive. So, Wendy, thank you for coming on the Bookshelf Odyssey podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Right. Yeah, I am about ready to start reading your first book. I'm really looking forward to it.
Cool.
What can we expect in your books?
Oh, goodness. So my first book, A Gray Resort, was really a labor of love. It took several years to write. It took 8 years to write because I was in the throes of parenting. I have 2 sets of twins, and they're all teenagers right now. But, during that time, it was just a lot of child rearing, and there wasn't a heck of a lot of a time to write. I did, however, had pockets of time where I wanted to write and get my feelings down on paper. And I just felt like this was going to be a great book. I had the idea with me for years, and I just went ahead and did it. And it was probably one of the hardest things I've ever done, but it was very fun to write, but there was a lot of difficulties. I had, my printer broke. I lost half the manuscript. I had a lot of things towards the end there that really, I don't know what was going on, but I just kind of forged through that, and I'm glad I did. But it is, it's my parents. We grew up in a small northern town in Wisconsin, in a town called Tomahawk. In the book, I call it Neelsville, but it's based on Tomahawk, and it's a resort on a lake. And my parents had 8 cabins, and it was just a great place to grow up. And they had all these parties, and it was very fun and gregarious atmosphere. And in addition to that, though, there was some paranormal activity that was going on, and I thought that would make a great premise for the book.
Now I've got to ask, what kind of paranormal activity? I find that interesting.
Yeah. Well, I really elaborated on that part in the book, but there's pockets of things that I made up, but there's things that were kind of based in some truth. So we heard some weird noises all throughout the woods. So we had a tree farm across the street, and they had a good amount of land, and there was always some strange noises that we heard. In fact, people that would come stay at the cabin would come up to my parents' house, the main house, and say, "Hey, what is that?" And my mom would always explain it away like, "Oh, it's a bear or a deer," or I don't know. She never really heard it, but we have like a long driveway, and the mailbox is at the end of the road. And I was there and then the tree farm's across the street. So my friends and I were kind of playing, and my mom had walked out to check the mail, and we heard that noise again. And she's like, "Is that the noise that you've been talking about?" I go, Yeah. She goes, "That is weird. That is strange." And I said, "Thank you. We've only been hearing it for the last couple of years and stuff." So there was just a very eerie element on the resort. I have like sort of a sixth sense. So the beginning story is actually true. The one with my grandparents. I had sort of a foreboding feeling that something was going to happen to them. And that's kind of how the book starts out. And it was I wasn't sure if I was going to put that in the book because it hit so close to home. I didn't know if I was going to do that, but I'm glad I did. I think it adds a nice element to it. And it was really fun to write.
I feel like those kinds of stories are perfect to read this time of year.
Yes.
It's cold and windy, and we're just stuck inside. So curl up with a book that will scare the daylights out of you.
Yeah. What's funny is I didn't know where the book was going to go. I didn't know how the ending was going to be. I'm not really a planner at all. I kind of just go by the seat of my pants. So I'm kind of more of a, what is it they say, a plotter or a pantser?
Yeah.
So I'm sort of a pantser. I don't know. I don't plan a lot. So I really didn't know how the ending was going to be. In fact, I was only going to stop writing at one book. And my friends that wrote it, or that read it rather, they said, you know what, this has got to be a series. This has got to be a series. You're not going to be done with one, are you? I'm like, well, I was kind of just going to do the one. And they said, no, you got to continue on with it. So I'm glad I did that. So I decided to continue on with it. And I'm actually working on book 3 in the series. So that should be, I'm not sure when that's going to be done, probably in about a year or so. But yeah, that's a whole new thing. I don't know. There were so many fun things about it. The second one too is, well, you get to know the characters in a gray resort, and some of them are people that I actually knew, which was really fun because it brought me back to that time. And then, and some are ones that I completely made up, and that was fun.
So you really could wear that T-shirt that says, "Be careful or you'll end up in my novel."
Right, right. Yeah, I actually do have a couple of my friends in the book.
Okay. So you've been warned.
Yep, right.
Now, and then I was listening to your podcast, a Juicy Pear podcast, and your most recent one had to do with military and mental health, which is a really timely issue. But you mentioned that you were also in the military at one point. So you've just been all over and done lots of things with your life, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, it was so long ago. It was, I was quite young when I was in the Army, and I was in for 4 years, and I went overseas and things, and I learned some things that were good, but I just, it was so long ago, and I was done after 4 years. I didn't really, I knew then that I didn't want to make a career out of it. But I did gain some good skills from that. But my podcast, the Juicy Pear Podcast, started during the pandemic, towards the end of it, a couple of years ago. And I started it because I was just tired of the incessant negativity that was that was just all around us. This big dark cloud. It just didn't seem like it was going away. It just kept looming large and forever, and it wasn't budging. And I thought, oh wow, this is not good. It's not good for anybody's mental health. And I thought, well, I want to do something fun. I want to interview cool people and just have some uplifting stories. And that's basically how a Juicy Pear Podcast got started. I started with a co-host. Her name was Sean. And, she decided that it wasn't quite her wheelhouse, and she was more than willing to, she goes, you should just go ahead and do it yourself. And I have been ever since, and it's been so fun. And, it's opened up a lot of doors. I've met and have been able to interview many people that I normally wouldn't otherwise. And it's just so cool. I love the paranormal. So there's a lot of paranormal aspects to my show. I have psychics and ghost hunters and people who explore, like Bigfoot and things like that, Mothman. I also like going kind of into mental health. So I had like last week, Travis Snyder. He hiked around Lake Michigan, not once, but twice to raise awareness for mental health. So I like to do that. I interview celebrities. So I just didn't really want to niche it down to one particular topic, because I thought, well, gosh, what if I meet this person and they're not in the kind of genre I do, and I won't be able to interview. So I didn't want to have that problem. So yeah.
That's funny because I'm kind of did the same thing a little backwards, but it was during the pandemic, and it was just so much negativity, and I really love Christmas. Like, this is my time of year. So
yeah,
I started a Christmas podcast, in the middle of July.
Oh, nice.
And read stories and had people just write in and tell me their stories and all that, and began to and I'm a big bookworm, so I was starting to interview authors, but then it's like, well, I'd really like to talk to this author, but they don't really have any Christmas connection.
Right.
So then it kind of morphed into this one, so I could.
It kind of limits, Yeah.
And so with the Bookshelf Odyssey, I can literally explore any shelf of my bookshelf I want to. So
because it was just getting very bland, and that's I feel like too, podcasting it's very intimate. You can have a very real conversation. I love podcasting. I love all the people that I've met through there. And I love to, interview other authors as well, their take on writing. And I think one of the biggest things for me is one of the happiest things is when I first got the first mock-up of my book, A Gray Resort, because I kind of told them how I wanted the cover of the book and gave them the fonts and the colors and decide, and they got it right off the bat. I kind of cried when I first got it because I just could not believe it. I was like, they got it. It's got like a sunset. And I was like, it looks just like the resort that I grew up on.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Because I never thought it was going to happen. Like I said earlier, a few things happened towards the end there. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is a test or what, but I got through that. Thank God.
Mm-hmm. Now, are you traditionally published or self-published or? I
decided to self-publish, and I self-published through BookBaby. Mm-hmm. So BookBaby, I looked around at a lot of different ones, and they're very reputable. They have their own graphic design team, their marketing team, and they've had quite a lot of successful books come out of that. Like you've heard of the movie The Shack, the book The Shack, that came out of BookBaby as well. Yeah, and very reputable. So I decided to go with them, and very professional, because I've learned too that there's a lot of shysters in this business, a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's very difficult to kind of walk through that murkiness as a writer, author, because as soon as you have something published, I don't know how they get my name or whatever, but you get several calls a week about, oh, I could do this for your book and that for your book, or, oh, I could turn it into a movie, or, oh, you got to come down to this book festival. And, it's hard to decipher what's legitimate and what's not.
Now, see, that's a side of it I hadn't thought of yet. Is being careful not to just, I don't know, lose your book and all of that. You sign away the rights or something. And
well, that's what I liked about self-publishing is you keep all of your rights. Yeah. You could go with, and some people do go to publishing houses where you got to be careful, because just because they're a publishing company, it doesn't mean that they're completely legitimate. I mean, I'm not saying that of all, but there are some out there that will, they have the rights to your book and they can do whatever. And they say that, oh, we'll market your book. But unless it's like really big ones like Penguin or HarperCollins or things like that, of course, that would be nice, because they have a huge marketing team and things, but you just really got to be careful. I like that I have 100% of my own rights. So if it becomes a movie, which I'm hoping, cross my fingers, I would love it to become a movie. I think it would be perfect to be a Netflix special. I retain all the rights for it. So.
Well, all right, Netflix, I know you're listening. So this sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
What are who are some of the characters we'll find in your book?
Okay, so the main one is Brooke Larken, of course. She is just, it kind of follows her along. She goes fishing, and I won't say too much about what happens to her after that. But the next door neighbors, Cassie and Lyle, they are based on people that I actually knew. Lyle has passed, and I've changed names and scenarios and things. And I'm not sure about Cassie, but Cassie is probably one of my favorite actress or characters in the book. Actress, I'm already thinking, it's gonna be a movie. She was just very salt of the earth. She had the bright red lipstick, very like white blonde bouffant hairdo, very loud persona. She was very flirtatious, middle-aged woman in my book, and she was so fun to write. And she's based on a true person, and she was actually like that in real life. Yeah. She would be like that at my parents' parties, and it was very funny.
That's great. Yeah. I could see an actress really having fun with that role. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'd be there's so much there.
Yeah. Do you have like a cast in mind, like actors in mind?
I did this a couple. So my book came out in 2019. I had a whole list a couple of years ago of who I wanted to play what. I would love to have Bradley Cooper play one of the characters in my book. I think he'd be perfect, fantastic. He'd probably be good in my second book, An Awakening. There's a character called the Traveler, and I think he would be perfect in that role.
I first came across Bradley Cooper in the show Alias.
Okay.
And if you remember that show, Jennifer Garner, I think.
I didn't. Yeah, I know the show, but I didn't see anything. I didn't see that one.
It was like a spy show.
Bradley Cooper was in that?
Yeah. He played a journalist.
Right. He is fantastic in A Star Is Born. I thought he was just absolutely fantastic.
Oh my, yeah. I think he was denied an Oscar on that, but don't get me started. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Him and Lady Gaga too. She was fabulous.
It's not my typical kind of movie I like, but but that one I just thought I'd watch it because everyone was talking about it, and I was thinking, man, this is really good.
So good. And I think the director, writer, whoever really captured the essence of who he was, and he did it in such a raw and wonderful way. That's what kind of really drew me in to that movie. I really love that movie. I don't like the ending so much, but yeah.
I don't either, but I guess it kind of makes some sense, but yeah, I like happier endings. So.
Right. No. Yeah.
But I'm a traditionalist, I guess. So. All right. Well, and are your books where's the best place to buy them?
You can go. My books are available. A Gray Resort and Awakening. They're available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, maybe Bookshop, wherever you can get your books. Really, you can look it up by that, or you can even look my name up, Wendy Kok, Kok, on Amazon. It'll come right up. I have the offer page right there on Amazon. I also have a wendymkokauthor.com, and you can find me. I'm kind of pretty much on all the socials. Wendy Kok 4 on Instagram. And yeah, I also review books and have a lot of fun with my podcast. Oh, a Juicy Pear Podcast.com too. So if you're interested in coming on the show or, check out, I have all different kinds of episodes that I think would, anyone could probably find one that they would like.
Yeah. I what I liked about it was your podcast is just like you were talking about, the variety of things from supernatural to mental health. And I'm going to spend hours catching up on all your episodes. I think.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, I love that. I have, I got invited to go to Point Pleasant, West Virginia. I'm talking about paranormal. That was where the Mothman was first sighted in Point Pleasant. It was around the 60s. And there was like a huge bridge incident. It was an accident there. And before that happened, killed a lot of people. But before that happened, they saw this thing flying around. But anyway, so now they have the Mothman Festival down there every year. And I've been asked to go down there and interview some people there and join in the festival. And that'll be fun. I think I'm going to do that next year.
That's got to be exciting, to see as you're building your podcast and it's connecting with people, and then you get invitations. Yeah.
It's so fun. They're like, yeah, come out. We'll do an interview. And then, what's cool is then they're like, oh, we'll show you around to, certain places that not everyone is invited to. I'm like, oh, sweet.
Yeah. I had, I think it was about after a year I was podcasting. I had a publisher reach out to me and say, hey, we've got some books coming out this fall that might fit your podcast.
Oh, wonderful.
Can we send you a couple? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
I just read one book and I am absolutely flabbergasted. I don't even know what to, it's called Verity. Have you heard of it?
Who's the author?
Colleen Hoover.
Colleen Hoover. No, I don't think so.
Oh my word. It is, I'll just say this. It's hard to put down.
I like those kind. Yeah.
It's very dark though.
Okay.
I'll say that. It's kind of disturbing in a way, but that's all I'm going to say. But I'm going to do a full review on Goodreads because I can't believe it.
Nice. All right. Well, I think that's a good way to transition into some book questions I have here. So speaking of what you've read lately and what you're reading, do you have a favorite book?
Gosh, that's hard to say because when I get done, the last couple books that I've gotten done with, I really enjoyed. I just got done reading Matthew Perry's new book as well. And I don't want to say it's my favorite book, but his very raw accounting of being an addict was very, I don't know. It's hard nowadays, to have somebody just be so open and with what he was going through it's refreshing. And it was very honest with things. And I liked it. I really did. That Matthew, I can't think of the title of it, but Matthew Perry's, it's his new book. Mm-hmm. It's about what he went through during the Friends, the height of when Friends was super popular. And he wasn't feeling all that great when he should have been, but yeah.
Right. I've heard a lot of good things about that book. And like you said, it's pretty blunt and raw, but
it is. It's excellent. He's a just a phenomenal writer. He's very poetic, actually.
Mm. Oh, wow. I've always enjoyed the things I've seen him in, and then you find out about this, and my hope is, and I know sometimes we can just make fun of celebrities, like, oh, they have a ton of money. What do they have to be stressed out about? But it's a pretty pressured job. And I hopefully just going forward, we can have those more open conversations about what people struggle with, and not, I don't know, see, respond with more compassion, perhaps.
Have more empathy.
Yeah.
It seems to be hard to come by these days, though.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Everybody's too busy in their own little world. You got to grab the attention within the 5 seconds, or it's off and fleeting onto the next, thing, which is hard. As a writer, it's hard to, you want to keep people engaged in your book and writing. And that was my whole sense was, I was like, okay, I want to keep the book. I want to keep the pacing, and I wanted to have people that they want to keep turning the page, I guess,
Well, I like to read a lot of old classics. So I don't mind a book that takes a while to get going, because, any book published in the 1900s or 1800s, it's 700-800 pages long. You're in for a TV show versus a movie, I guess. But I was just going to say the thickest book I've ever read probably was It by Stephen King. I think it's like almost 1,000 pages. I read that when I was in high school. I found that to be I love Stephen King. I think he's great. Scary. Yeah, I'm actually just getting into Stephen King some years ago now, when he wrote the book about the Kennedy assassination, time travel.
I heard that was a good one.
Yeah,
I haven't read that one.
That was the first one of his I've read. I always didn't know if he was necessarily the kind of author I'd enjoy, because I like scary stories, but sometimes I don't like the overly graphic, gross kind.
Right, I don't either.
This one was really good, and not what I would expect as typical King story writing, but so I enjoyed that. So I've been reading a little bit of his here and there since then. I think just a few years ago I read Salem's Lot, which is a classic from what I've heard, and that's
a good movie too.
Yeah,
I always remember that kid floating in the window. That's probably one of the scariest pirate scenes in that movie. Ugh.
Yeah, I'm kind of a chicken sometimes, so but that one was good. Yeah. And then let's see, what was the first book you ever read on your own, or what books did you read a lot of as a child? Have you?
Oh gosh, I couldn't tell you honestly what the first book I ever read. I read a lot of Judy Blume when I was younger. Laura Ingalls Wilder. I read some of those, and then there was kind of a long period where I didn't read any books at all for the longest time. I mean, I read a lot. I read a lot of books when I was in my teens and early 20s, but then I just recently, last couple of years, got to trying to play catch up and read again, because it's hard to get time to do that sometimes. But yeah, I remember Judy Blume. What was VC Andrews? Flowers in the Attic. That one was pretty creepy book. I remember I read that as a teen. Yeah.
And then do you like to binge read or take your time?
I don't, I'm not in any of those book clubs where I like read so many in a month. That's very off-putting to me. I read what I want to read. If I really like it and it's hard to put down and I really get into the story and then, it ends. I was like, oh, then I'm usually kind of like, oh, I need another book to feed into that. I got so swept up into the story. So I try to find another one to grab my attention. It kind of goes in streaks, but I'm not like, how many books can I read this year? Nah.
Yeah. So yeah, you don't care about keeping track or it doesn't.
I mean, I have a Goodreads account. So, I try to keep up with the review. Like when I read a book, I'll review it on there and do it that way. So
I like keeping track and having goals because that's just the way my brain works. And
yeah,
I just like it. And I laugh because my best reading month was in 2020. I think it was one of the fall months, but we had COVID. It wasn't super bad, just enough where we had to be quarantined. So we were all inside for about a month and I did nothing but read. And
oh, wow. How many books did you read?
I actually ended up finishing about, I think it was 30.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And I got to say some of those were audiobooks.
That's amazing though.
Still,
wow.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd recommend that. I've tried it again as just a challenge to see if I could do it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I came too close to it. How about Kindle versus real book? Do you have a strong opinion?
Real book.
Okay. And you'll die on that hill. Huh?
I like to have the feel of it in my hands. I mean, I'm sure, it has a lot of pluses, the Kindle, but I don't know. I love a paperback. I just like to see it. And yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a Kindle and sometimes I'll get a book that way if it's, if I can get it cheaper or through the library.
Sure.
They have and that's actually mostly where I get them is our library will have books on Kindle that they don't have on their shelves.
Yeah.
Anyway, this next question is bookmarks or dog ears?
Oh, you got to go with the bookmark.
Absolutely.
But I have to say, I've dog-eared Verity a few times because I couldn't find my bookmark.
I think I answered that question. Well, we're not barbarians. We use bookmarks.
Right. I mean, I hate it when I do it too. It's like, oh, I hate doing that. But
yeah,
what do you do when you're in a pinch?
I've watched videos of people with book channels on YouTube and that they have, they'll annotate their book, they'll highlight it, write in it. And I've tried that a few times and I just can't do it. I like start off highlighting and then I'm like, oh, I can't do this.
Just like a regular book that you like highlight it and, oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, they'll like write notes, write their thoughts in it. It's almost becomes like a journal, which I think is a neat idea. If
that is kind of neat.
Especially if it's a book you love.
Right.
Then you have this record of your thoughts and you highlight your favorite quotes and stuff. But, and I
do like that idea. I do like that idea because you find something, as a writer, when I see something just absolutely knock out of the park, fabulously written, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to remember that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So yeah, highlighting it or, recording it in a journal that, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I start doing it and then I just lose steam or whatever. And I just want to read the book.
Right.
But also there's something in me that still says, you're not supposed to write in a book. What are you doing?
Right.
Yeah. Now, do you have a favorite genre or book trope?
This is funny because I don't really care for romance too much, but I shouldn't say that because my book kind of is like paranormal romance. So the second one's kind of more of a thriller. I love thrillers. I do like autobiographies as well. I haven't read an autobiography in quite a while, but I did it kind of goes in streaks. But I would have to say like scary thriller, But then, what's a book that I read that I really, really kind of, it had to do with mental health? What Made Maddy Run? That was sort of, that was really, really well done. It was based on the true life of this lovely young woman who seemingly had everything going for her. And she committed suicide, but it was just shocking because she was just, high flyer, straight A student, just a star on the track team. She had all these things going for her, and she, yeah. And just reading about that and what led up to it. And there were a lot of different like clues that she kind of left with her family and friends, but they just really didn't, I don't know, it's not that they weren't paying attention, but they just, maybe, I don't know, maybe they just weren't paying attention. But yeah, it was kind of like the track coach, kind of pushed her, and I don't know, there's just a lot of elements to it. And it was just interesting. It's sad, but I think it's a good book. I think everybody should read that book just so you can kind of get a sense of how, it's not always the student that's, where it's visibly, that like, oh, they're depressed. It's no one had any idea that she was even feeling that way at all. Very fun personality and things. So
yeah, a couple years ago, there was a guy, a young man from our local high school. He took his own life, and it surprised the whole community because, he just graduated a year or two before that and was on the football team, was well known in the community, good kid from all accounts. And
yeah,
it was very shocking. Yeah.
Yeah. It's sad. It's sad and shocking. And it just makes you think like how, what happened?
Well, I want to say on to happier things here, but
yeah,
that's a struggle. A lot of us struggle. And I guess I would just, since we touched on it, don't struggle alone. Find someone you can trust to speak to if you're feeling that way.
Absolutely.
There's help for you. Definitely. Yeah. Guys, two more quick questions here. Since you're hoping your books will be turned into a movie, what to you would make a good movie adaptation of a book?
I would say stick with what the author had in mind. Don't get too far off base. When you strive for, like, if like the director or producer, whatever, has in their mind, let's how much money can we make and who we're going to get, that when you water it down and water down the plot and water down, the characters and things like that, when you're trying to appease the masses, then it slowly kind of takes away from the artistic integrity of the story. I feel so. I think a good adaptation would be really get into the writer's head and have open communication with the writer itself, and to make sure that, it gets on screen what the writer wanted or whatnot. If they think it's good enough to be a movie, then, find a way to work well with the author or writer, whatever. And, to get his dream on screen. Well, I saw a really good movie on Netflix. It was so good. And it's based on a book. I didn't know there was a book out, and it's called The Good Nurse on Netflix. Have you heard of that one?
I've heard of the show. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was a movie, and it's based on this nurse that was killing all these people, and it took another nurse that turned him in, and it finally solved it. But the lead character is played by Jessica Chastain. She's fantastic. It was so good. So well done. I highly recommend that. That's on Netflix. I believe it's still on Netflix. Yeah.
Yeah. I recognize the name. I'll have to check that out.
She's so good. Oh,
yeah.
Love her. And Eddie Redmayne. Oh my, he played the bad nurse. Oh my gosh. He knocked it out of the park. Fabulous. So good. I love so creepy. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Well, I need to watch that now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then final question here. Do you have any advice for new writers?
I would just say stick, go with your gut, really. Go with your gut. You're going to get all kinds of advice, and you're going to get all kinds of people telling you all kinds of things. And really just go with what you believe in and what makes you excited. Like when you're writing something and your heart palpitates and you're like hands shaking, like, oh my God, this is good. That's your inner being saying, this is good. Get it out there. If you're feeling that way, guaranteed there's going to be somebody out there. You're going to find your reading base that will feel the same way when they write your stuff, when they read your stuff. So just trust in yourself and just keep writing. Don't quit. Just keep up with it.
I've even discovered that with podcasting. It's if it's especially if it's a topic you could just talk for hours on, that's probably a good podcast topic for you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. If you really enjoy it, they'll see that you enjoy it. It'll come through in your interview. And they'll want to listen to that because it's high energy and is high pleasant and joyful, and people want that. They don't want to have two people like, oh, I don't know,
Yeah. Welcome to the boring podcast, everyone. Yeah. Well, Wendy, thank you for taking time this afternoon to come on the show. You want to go ahead and give us your websites again? We can find you online.
Yeah. Well, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been so fun. You can find me on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, my book, juicypearpodcast.com, or wendymkokauthor.com. I'm on all the socials. You'll find me, and my last name is spelled K-O-K. And I love to connect and with readers and other writers and things. And go ahead and go read my books, folks. I'd love to see what you think.
Best of luck to you and your future endeavors, Wendy, and take care.
Thank you so much, Art. You as well.